everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are ready to start our session on bridging the battle when parents, admins, and students don't see eye to eye. And this is a very important session, especially for those of you who are administrators. But I'm going to try to tackle the subject from the point of view of teachers, because that's what the series really, especially, is for the teachers. My name is Mann Rentoy. Many of you may have actually participated in some of my past seminars, webinar series. Um, I have been a teacher for more than 30 years and an administrator for most of those years, because in 1994, sorry, 1992, I started a school in Iloilo City called Paref Westbridge School. It's an all-boys school, which is one of the top schools in Region 6 now. And I also served as principal of intermediate school in South Ridge, a consultant in many other schools like Bannister Academy, Paref Northfield School, and then I taught in the University of Asia and the Pacific. So then, let's talk about a very important topic, because since we are involved in an academic institution, in a school, there are different players. And when you put different players in a community, you can expect some misunderstandings or difficulties, even in the relationships, because in the end, we teachers are really in the business of relationships. We are building relationships with the students, which is the only effective way to actually be able to effectively form character or be an excellent educator. Without relationship, students will just be class numbers, names in our class list, people we give grades to. Without relationship, it ends up to be just that. But we want to be an excellent educator, and that's why we are not satisfied with simply seeing the students as merely class numbers. So then, let me first make sure I shared the right screen. So let's proceed. Our objective for this session today is this: to equip you, teachers, as well as administrators, with emotional intelligence, communication strategies, and practical tools to navigate misunderstandings, tensions, and breakdowns between the three main school stakeholders, or among the three main stakeholders of the school: the parents, the administration or the administrators, and the students. And then we're there in the middle, caught in the middle, having to make sure we comply with the requirements of the administration, because we were hired by them, following policies and procedures as laid down by the school. And well, really, come to think of it, we are trying to please the administration. That's why we do our work well. That's why we make sure parents don't complain about us, because if parents complain about us, then the administration will confront us. And then every day we are at the forefront of dealings with the students. We are there at the very forefront of the, like you can say, an ongoing battle day after day inside the classroom. We are the ones at the front line of the battle. And then it becomes difficult when parents come in complaining about things they heard from their child, or stories they heard from a third person, and then we get upset, we get irritated because we see that there is a miscommunication, especially because if the students are the only source of their information, then chances are you are not going to have complete picture all the time. So we're there in the middle, administrators, parents, students, and then the teachers are there right in the middle of the whole thing. And we have to know how to navigate this, especially if there becomes or there comes a situation, a circumstance where either because of misunderstandings, tensions arise, or worse, breakdown of communication takes place. So that's why the title of this session is about building bridges. We are here in order to bridge the battle, to connect the dots, to make the relationship happen, not just between us, teachers, and the students, and the administrators, and the parents, but among. Bridges don't build themselves. Someone always has to take the first step. So it's not automatic, especially if the, I don't know, maybe in some cases, um, some schools do not see the parents as collaborators, but rather as people in the opposite side of the fence. Some schools look at parents as people in the other side of the bridge. I've been to so many different schools. I've taught in so many different schools. I've been teaching most of my teaching years. I've been spending most of my time in para schools where we highlight homeschool collaboration, partnership with parents. So I may not have encountered as much difficulty or problem, but I have talked to administrators or had discussions with some teachers who would see the parents as like that, either enemies, opponents, or people in the other side of the fence, like as if um, they are on two opposite sides of the pole. They're not. One of the most important things I will have to highlight, in fact, is we teachers have to collaborate with the parents. We are not here to replace them. In fact, in the formation of their children, we are here to collaborate with them, to really just provide support to what they, in fact, are supposed to be doing. The parents are the primary educators of the children. Unfortunately, though, what we see in society today is there is a gap. Some parents are not doing a good job in parenting. And then that's when you have difficulties, tensions, miscommunications, misunderstandings um, looming. Now, the other problem we teachers have is we now have more and more students who come inside our classroom, and they come from uh, these functional families or irregular family situation. Not necessarily that the parents have separated, but we have more and more students, for example, who come inside our classroom, and they are children of OFWs. The father is in Dubai, the mother is in Saudi, in Hong Kong. They are out, they are absent, absentee parents. I mean, uh, I've said this so many times. We are not generalizing And we are not saying that the OFWs are doing a disservice to their family by being away, by being absent. Because in fact, all the OFWs I personally know chose to work abroad because they want a good life for their family. They want to give a more comfortable life to their family. But you and I, as teachers, know if the parents are not there physically to supervise the children, problems start happening. So that's what we're going to talk about, therefore. Given all these complications, situations, present problems that we see among the young people today, how can we build that bridge so that we are able to make things work? First, let's talk about the triangle of tension. The reason why you can have tensions arising is because you have this triangle: the parents, the administrators, and the students. Here are top 5 reasons, according to experts, why conflicts happen. Top 5 reasons. Number one, when you have a mismatch in expectations, right? Some parents think that by paying the tuition fee, bahala na kayo, sir, ma'am, kayo nang bahala sa anak namin. That's the mindset. Their expectation is that we are going to take their place informing their children. No, we continue to expect from them that they do their part. For example, after dismissal, when the students go home, oh, we have nothing to do anymore. I mean, we cannot be in control anymore of the students. Sure, we will be in charge of them when the students are inside our classroom. But as soon as they get out of our school after dismissal or during a no school day, well, we expect the parents to continue being the ones supervising them, making sure that their children study at home, do their homework, prepare for exams, do their best in their schoolwork that they have to finish at home. So when you have that mismatch of expectations, parents expect us to do this, but we also expect something from them. Or the same thing happens with administrators. Administrators expect the teachers to have this capacity to teach this subject, to be a good teacher. But wait, did you give the proper training, orientation, briefing to the teachers? How much time was spent in orienting them about the school's mission, vision, policies, how we do things here in this school? So now you can have a mismatch there. Again, the same thing happens with the students. We expect students to study hard, but students today are different from our generation. They are technocentric. They have access to internet, high-speed internet, AI generated essays. They have access to all these things. But our expectation of them is that they're going to take our subject seriously, study very hard, put in all the effort, not cheat, and then you now have this mismatch of expectations. Here's another reason, according to expert, why conflicts happen: poor communication channels. If, for example, we are not able to communicate effectively to the parents our expectations, that we expect them to make sure their children come to school punctually every day. Of course, that's a given, right? But um, that there has been no communication regarding consequences if their son, their daughter comes late. 3 times, 10 times, 20 times. And then there's that difficulty. Or you have parents coming to school one day to look for a teacher, to ask that teacher to explain why the son failed in the subject. And the parents will say, Mr. Rentoy, if you told us ahead of time that our son is doing poorly, we could have helped him more. Hmm. Like as if now it's my fault. And you have situations like that because that's what happens, right? When a student fails, the parents can sometimes look for all people to blame, things to blame, except themselves. They can blame the teacher, they may blame the curriculum, they will even blame DepEd, they will even blame typhoon, the weather, the cancellation of classes, they will blame the DILG for all the cancellations of class, but they never will um, accuse themselves of maybe we could have supervised our son, our daughter more. So you have situations like that. You can have parents who will look for anybody else to blame except themselves. So poor communication channels may be um, one of the biggest reasons many times why conflicts happen. Here's another one: generational differences. I mentioned earlier, we are now dealing with these technocentric children whose life revolves around internet, Wi-Fi, um, cell phone, gadgets, computer, tablet, Netflix, Spotify. Their life revolves around this technological, like so immersed in technology. And that is very different from many of us who are older, who grew up without the cell phone, without the computer. They only came much later on when we were already professionals. There, you can have conflict arising because of the differences in the generation, in the mindset, in the attitude, in the outlook. So you have teachers, for example, today, as soon as they hear Chat GPT, AI, they will say that's cheating. But you have a kid here growing up thinking that ChatGPT is one of the best things that made their life more convenient, that made studying far easier than ever, because then ChatGPT can even generate a test exam for them to prepare for a subject, to prepare for a unit test. All he has to do is to upload the notes or the textbook to ChatGPT and will ask ChatGPT, prepare for me 100 multiple choice items unit tests on chapter 5. And ChatGPT can produce that. And that's their way of reviewing for our exam. The generational differences can be many times at the root of conflicts, which, well, at the root of it is seeing things differently. Young people look at AI in a different way compared to how we adults, older people, look at AI and internet and Wikipedia and gadgets and computer and technology. Here's another cause, according to experts, why conflicts happen: misaligned goals. And you can have parents like that who are so obsessed with their son, their daughter graduating valedictorian. And here's a teacher who, on the other hand, insists we should not be grade conscious. We should be more concerned about preparing these young people to be successful in life. not just to pass my subject, to pass the year level, to pass the grade level, but to really become a very good human being. Misaligned goals, or the other way around, that are teachers who teach like as if everything is about grades. You fail it, I will fail you. I will not hesitate to give you a a failing mark, and you repeat the year. That's a very tragic thing that happened um, a few months back, when you have this teacher who did not allow a student to march for graduation simply because the student failed again the subject the second time that he took it. And now the parents are saying, is it just all about the grades? Like as if uh, it's all about numbers. When you have misaligned goals like this, conflict can happen. Or finally, number five is unresolved past wounds. I've had an experience of this, of a parent who felt that she was robbed of her valedictorian status because the one that was made valedictorian was the son of the owner of the school. And so the parents now, that parent had a son in the school where I was teaching, and that parent was so obsessed about the son making the getting the valedictory post, or the being able to be number one in the batch. And that obsession would lead eventually to the son attempting to burn the faculty room. I mean, it ended up very tragically. So at the root of that is that unresolved past wound of that parent. There's five things happening, and you can expect conflicts. So then, we need to know the three players: the parents, administration, the students. They are three so different, like personalities, that for a teacher caught in the middle, we need to understand where this one is coming from, where that one is coming from. So let's take a look for the parents' perspectives. From the parents' perspective, really, every parent's wish is simply what is best for the child. I just want what is best for my child, right? I mean, no parents would not have this as like a disposition, an outlook, a feeling, a desire. I want what is best for my child. So you will have parents who will bring it to the extreme. And there is always, for any parent, there is always that fear of their child failing. So if the child is doing poorly, you can have a parent going to the school, asking for an explanation from the teacher. And even, I'm sure some of you may have experienced this, a parent coming to you in school asking you, um, like as if insinuating that maybe, sir, you did not teach my son well enough. Maybe if you motivated him more, he would have done better. I mean, we're back to that problem of um, they may blame anything and ever anybody except themselves. So you can have this many times tension arises when you have parents like this. They want what is best for their child, and they are afraid of their child ever failing. Here's another problem. And you and I, who have been inside the classroom, who have been teaching for years, we have experienced this. You can have a parent who is overprotective, trying to shield their child from any difficulty, any inconvenience. If the subject is very difficult, they will complain. Why is the subject too difficult? Well, ma'am, it's not that it's too difficult. Your son, your daughter may just need to spend more time reading and rereading and doing all the assignments. But you can have parents who are like this. They're overprotective. They want to shield their child from any hardship. Here's another one. That's social pressure. I mean, the social pressure that if your child is not doing very well, people talk about that. And you are pressured. Parents only want what is best for their child. They don't want people talking about their child as the weak one, the poor one academically, or as also related to a point we raised earlier, past traumas from their own schooling. Then complications, conflicts arise. Let's take a look at the administrator's point of view. They have a dilemma. They know they are running a school and it has to survive. It has to be self sufficient. It should be able to, uh, well, financially do well, even. And then they know that they have to pressure the teachers into teaching very well because the reputation of the school is especially reflected on the administrators, the leaders. And so they put in place policies. They put in place rules for the teachers to follow. They put in place uh, trusts. You know, the what are the key result areas that we will look at to be able to say that we have successfully finished a school year, not drama. This is what administrators are saying. We just need to stick to rules, to policies. We don't need dramas. So you have administrators, therefore, um, who need to make a balance, being fair, but at the same time being firm, because they are the ones who need to make sure policies are in place and that they are followed. But at the same time, they want to please the clients, the parents. And at the same time, they have to show support for the teachers. That's what they are administrators for. And that takes a lot of balancing acts, which is not very easy. That's why being an administrator is not easy because you are also like caught in between the two opposing forces, always two opposing um, options in decision making. Should we kick out the student or should we ask the teacher to give more consideration? Should we ask this teacher to stay or should we fire the teacher? Should we? It's always like that. There are always like almost two opposing, highly opposing things whenever they have to make decisions. As I said earlier, they have to support the teachers, but at the same time, they have to please the parents because, remember, they need to survive financially. And if you have parents leaving because they are unhappy with one teacher or another, because they are unhappy with one policy or another of the school, then they will not have the enough students to even just break even. That's very tough for administrators, always doing a balancing act. And then you have the students. You have the students, especially now we think of the teenagers, the intermediate and high school and senior high school students. We need to um, understand their mindset, their disposition, their behavior, their outlook, which, as I said earlier, that generational difference is more pronounced. These young people today really belong to a different generation. Now we have to deal with teachers, have to deal with the so-called teenage angst and that desire for our autonomy. And then in intermediate school, they are trying to find their identity. And we have to teach them math, science, English, religion, Filipino, social studies, history, panitikan. We have to deal with, while we are teaching the subject, we still have to deal also with this kind of kids we have inside the classroom today. You have these children who need validation, but at the same time, we teachers have to be fair. We cannot be giving into favoritism, for example. We have to be very uh, fair while being considerate, firm while being humane and kind and caring. I mean, it's like the what is expected of us is again, it's almost like the art of cooking. You cannot have fire that is too intense because that will burn what you're trying to cook. But you cannot have too weak a fire that it's going to take you such a long time to finish the cooking. So we are always also caught in that needing to do a lot of balancing act. And then these children are seeking, looking for, trying to find their identity. And at the same time, trying to battle merely conformity because they're discovering freedom. And many of them don't know yet the, well, full freedom and the expectation that the responsibility that is also expected to come out of having more freedom. Okay, um, the young people today are very different. Let's try to go back. Uh, let's try to put ourselves in their shoes. If we were the students in the class today, what would you feel misunderstood about? Maybe one misunderstanding or one feeling they have is my teachers think I am just addicted to video games. I am not. Some students feel they are misunderstood for being lazy because they watch too much TV, they watch YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, reels in Facebook, videos, that I'm not studying hard enough. But I am. So for some of them, they feel misunderstood about that matter of the use of technology, the use of gadget, because really, amazingly, I have seen kids who are so adept at technology, they can actually, for example, finish studying fast, try to understand everything very quickly so that they have more time for video games, for social media, for TikTok and Facebook. And okay, and then exam time comes and he does well. but the teacher, meanwhile, has accused the student of being lazy, too addicted to video games, and etc. So that is where many of them may feel they are misunderstood. If you were a student inside a classroom today, what would most likely you would be feeling misunderstood about? That's an important thing to consider every so often. Okay, here are some common scenarios that cause friction. And therefore, this is where we have to build bridges, grade disputes, right? And that's why it's very important for teachers to, in the first place, uh, make sure that we have all our records in order, that we make sure we have um, very clearly, um, that we follow very clearly all the policies given by our school, by the administrators, on the number of quizzes that we should be giving, the number of unit tests, the number of long tests, the um, number of performance tasks that we will ask our students to do. And then we check all the papers on time and we return them to the students on time so that when this happens, grade disputes, we can very easily and very well defend ourselves. Why this student got this grade in my subject. And then, of course, all the considerations we have been able to give them, uh, considering the difficulty of our subject, considering the so many disruptions in classes because of typhoons and the holidays, and in spite of all this, that we will be able to defend the grade that we give them and they cannot dispute it. Here's another main, many times, cause or scenario of friction: discipline decisions. Why the school decided to suspend, drop from the rolls, detain, discipline decisions. That many times is what causes a lot of misunderstandings, miscommunications, frictions between the parents, the school, between the school, the teachers, and the parents. Special privileges requests, lack of communication or response time. That I hear this many times when parents complain that the school made decision and the parents are just surprised about the decision. They were not communicated with. The school did not reach out to them, or that they complain about something and then they don't hear any response. Or maybe they will hear, but late, 1 week late, many days late, and they feel, well, the school did not do its um, work well in communicating, in reaching out. Here's another major cause of friction: assumptions about a child's character. When we would have to discipline a student, and then the parents are told, your son, your daughter is like this. And they will say, Mr. Rentoy, in the house, my son is very disciplined. It's only in your school, it's only in your classroom that he behaves like that. Therefore, something is wrong with the school. I'm sure you've heard this kind of scenario where the parents will claim, our son is such a good boy. How can you punish him for being a bully? He's not like that at home. There. So you have this. That's why it's very important that we reach out to the parents, communicate with them frequently, get them to collaborate with us in the work of formation that we do, as we also collaborate with them. So here are some practical strategies we can do to bridge the gap. Effectively, this is really what we need to do. There are gaps, there are potential causes of friction, of miscommunication, but we need to make sure we know how to address them when they do happen. If parents come to complain to us, whether it's about contesting the suspension that we gave the student, contesting the failing mark that the student got, that we gave a student, contesting the policy of the school that we will not allow yayas and maids to hover around campus, for example. I mean, I'm mentioning this because I just heard this problem in one school recently. The school decided to put its foot down and disallow yayas, drivers, uh, maids, housemaids, hovering in campus. That they should not even be allowed inside the campus, so as not to disrupt school activities, school schedule, etc. And parents complain about it, that it is inhumane that you are not treating these yayas. But from the point of view of the school, they want to insist, we don't want your son to grow up to be dependent on the yaya. We want them to grow in their sense of responsibility, sense of dependence, that they should not um, grow up with the mindset that anyway, my yaya will clean up the mess, will take care of that, will carry my bag. So here are top 5 tools for us to bridge the gap. You hear a complaint, use the I see, I feel, I wonder script. Mrs. So and so, I see your point. However, this is also what the school thinks. I feel we have not been able to understand each other very well. I am sorry about that, but this is really what we want. In other words, the I message, not the immediately, Mrs. So and so, you don't see the point. That becomes confrontational, and you are not going to be able to arrive at a good ending with that kind of message. But rather to first, um, use the I message. No, I feel this is not going along the right direction. I see that we are not exactly in the same page. I wonder if you have considered script. Here's another one. A very important point here is when complaints come, when frictions happen, when um, opinions collide, we, the educators, the teachers, who are the professionals, have to be very calm, clear, and then structured in our replies. Because we are here to bridge the gap, to put out the fire and get everybody to calm down first. So, experts suggest have those templates, email templates that you keep in your files that are well written, calm, clear, and structured, that we can always use as an immediate response to a complaint, to a letter we receive, to an email, an angry email that we receive, that we can use. Otherwise, uh, if we don't have this and we are drafting an email in anger, in frustration, in that kind of negative feelings, chances are it's not going to be a very good, well written, calm, clear email. And then communicate, communicate, communicate. That's always what we are told. The top three tips for effectively dealing with conflicts: communication, communication, communication. Invite administration, teacher, parents to talk, to clarify things, to make sure we are on the same page, to make sure we understand the problem correctly. Because many times conflicts arise when there is a difference in understanding of an issue. That's why communication is very crucial. Document everything without weaponizing it. I mentioned earlier about grades that we have on record. Every quiz, every test, every long test, every performance task, maybe even every recitation that the students make. We have a record of that. And it's in black and white, and it's concrete, objective numbers. Or that um, when we initially replied to a complaint of a parent, we have it in black and white. We have an email of it. We have a copy of the letter that was given to them. They sent a letter. We have it received by the office, and there is a date indicated there, and it's logged. It's in the logbook that we received that letter on this day, and then that we acknowledged it, and that we are asking for time to be able to reply more completely to whatever issue it is. Document everything, not to use as a weapon, but especially also to protect ourselves, so that should the time come when we need to show it as a proof, it's there. We have it in paper, in the email, on record. Communication, like in any communication, there is a breakdown when people stop listening, when people stop hearing. And to listen, to be able to understand, not just to listen so that we know how to answer. And in many conflicts, sometimes what is needed is not necessarily a solution, but simply a space. At the bottom of this is part of the matter is our mission as educators, not our ego. Who wins the conflict? Who wins the debate? Who has the last word, the last say in the issue? No, at the heart of the matter is we are here teachers, not just covering the curriculum, not just teaching a subject, not just finishing a textbook, but to see these young people grow up to be good men and women. That's our mission. And that is what is most important, more important than who ends up winning in the debate. We are not just dealing with a parent, a student, or a boss. We're dealing with a soul, a thinking, feeling being. And that is the kind, that's what is permanent among our students. They may be different in terms of mindset, attitude, behavior, beliefs, because they are digital and so immersed in technology, but they continue to be the same kind of human being, a thinking, feeling human being whose most innate desire is to be acknowledged, to be accepted. So that's one of the most important things we teachers will always have to do, to go back again and again to why did I become a teacher? Why am I here for? Especially when conflicts arise, it becomes very taxing, toxic, difficult, frustrating even, especially because many of us teachers give our best and pour our heart out in the work that we do. And then you have a parent complaining. You have a parent who does not understand. Or we have an administrator who does not seem to show the same appreciation for what we do, for our commitment, the kind of commitment that we put in to our job. It becomes taxing. And it is at that moment when you will just have to go back to why did I become a teacher? I became a teacher because I want to help these young people grow up to be successful, good men and women. Secondly, value the relationship over the reaction. That's how we started our presentation earlier. We teachers are in the business of building relationships, really. Third, see our role as a bridge builder, not a battleground hero. Okay, well, we're going to end in a while. Let me just give you a few do's and don'ts or things to say given some situations. So, you have a parent coming over to complain about the grade. My son deserves a higher grade. You're being unfair, ma'am, sir. Here is what you should not say. Well, he should have studied harder. Look at the grades, they speak for themselves. No, that's not what we should say. Instead, what we can say is, I understand your concern. You remember the I message earlier? I feel, I sense, I see. I understand your concern. Let's go over his work together so I can show you how the grade was determined, how I arrived at this grade that your son got. And maybe by doing this, we can find a way to support him moving forward. And then you show the records. I mean, you show, uh, you see, he missed some projects. Mom, uh, we have to help him. Maybe at home, you need to remind him to check on him if he has been able to finish what he's supposed to submit on time, well, properly done. So you see, the big difference is the first one is it's just blaming the son and effectively blaming the parents. Why did you not, therefore, help him in the project? Why did you not? Instead, when you say something like this, you're still after the success of the child. Let's work together so that um, we can help him. He can do better if he does the following. Here's another scenario, this time with your administration. Admin says, okay, we're now going to implement this new rule starting tomorrow. Make sure you adjust your class plan, okay? Or admin says, okay, um, let's change everything now. We will go UBD, understanding by design. And then suddenly the admin says, sorry, stop the UBD. We will transition to OBE. We haven't even understood the first one. And now we have a new one. What not to say? Seriously? Why do you always do this? Changing things last minute. How do you expect us to keep up? Some teachers may be thinking that, but don't say it. Here instead is what we will have to say to address the conflict or the clash. Thanks for the update. May I clarify how this will affect our current lessons so I can make the transition smooth for the students? Because that is what we are always after. What is good for the students, not what is good for advertisement, for publicity. What we are after is the good of the students, the success of the students. And by saying something like this, calmly, you're not confrontational, you are not objecting to whatever administration decides. Because really, come to think of it, whatever administration decides, we have to follow because we were hired by them. But at the same time, maybe sometimes we need to give our opinions, especially if we are the expert in the matter. Here's another scenario: teacher student scenario. Disrespectful behavior. When a student, for example, says, why do I even need to listen to you? This class is so boring. And I'm sure you've experienced having students like this who will not hesitate to tell you, this is boring. Okay, what not to say? Get out, go to the principal's office now, or you are detained. Watch your mouth. You're rude and ungrateful. That's not what we should say. Instead, okay, it sounds like something's bothering you. Let's talk about it after class. I'd like to hear what you think could make this more meaningful. I'd like to hear you um, suggest what will make this class more um, exciting for you. Now, I know this is not very easy to do. I mean, it's so easy to say this in a seminar, as an example, but in reality, this may be such a big challenge for us to become, to be patient, to be understanding, to be this good and kind in spite of the complaint that we hear. But it works and it matters because we are the adults, we are the professionals. Teacher parent scenario: complaints about discipline. My daughter came home crying because of what you said. Are you even trained to deal with kids? A parent can come to us saying that. What not to say? Yes, because your child was being disruptive. She's always like that. She has an attitude. I did what any reasonable teacher would do. Don't say that. Instead, what we say is, well, I'm sorry to hear she felt that way. That was not my intention, because it's true. We teachers never intend to harm, to hurt anyone. Let's discuss what happened so we can work together to support her growth. Again, we are after the good of the student. So, in all these things, if you notice, and I can give many more examples, it's always about what is good for the students because that is what we are in this profession for. Okay? Just to close, when elephants fight, it's the grass that suffers. An African proverb. Yeah, when parents clash with us, with the teachers, it's the students who will suffer. It's the um, environment that will suffer. It's the atmosphere that will suffer. It's not just those two in conflict. It's really um, people in the end who will have to bear the difficulty. Okay, I'm going to post now in the chat box the link to claim the certificates, and then let me flash on screen for those in the recording. Here's the QR code to claim your certificate. You can now scan it or click on the link. and fill up the Google form to be able to claim the certificate for our session today. And again, as written there, for any concern about the recordings or the certificates, just send an email to activities.catalyst@gmail.com. Okay, well, I hope you're all okay in spite of the typhoon, the pending strong typhoons that we are expecting. That's why many cities have already either called off